Hello and welcome to That's the Point, where we converse and pontificate upon construction technology. I was told it's always better to pontificate with a friend, so I'm here with Jonathan Stickle. What's up, man?
Doing well, glad to be here.
All right, today we're talking about the X7, and specifically we're going to be talking about scan density. Now, if there's two things we have a limited supply of in the world, it's time and hard drive space. Two realities. But now, while one is getting really cheap and it ebbs and flows, but right now in the world, it's hard drive and storage space is cheap. Time is always expensive, right? And so the good news is that the X7 can be tailored to your specific needs.
Yeah, and when it comes to scan time, scan density is the biggest adjustment you have.
We actually have three, right? We have low, medium, and high.
Yeah, so if you look at the figure below here, we can see that the different densities complete a scan in vastly different durations. So right away, just looking at the table here, if you're in a hurry or if you're just scanning for envelope, you want to use low density. But if you need everything, obviously you're going to want to go with the high density scan.
Right, and it's a huge delta, right? So the low density scan being at a minute 35, high density at 639. I mean, obviously that's, if you multiply that over a day's worth of scanning,
it's a lot of time.
Low, you're going to get a lot of more scans. And it works this way because you're giving up time for captured points. So let's continue to build this out. So because once you understand that these densities are effectively the distance between the points, you can begin to tailor your scan plan to adjust for detail as needed. Now, remember, with the X7, your accuracy is the same throughout every level. You're not dialing that up or down. You're getting that same super accurate point measurement. We're only changing the density. So let's add some data. So let's add a couple more columns to this chart, and you can see that if we maybe create some standard distances, right? Maybe 16 foot from the scanner, 115, 262. We can see this, and these numbers are actually in FieldLink as well if you open up your scan settings. But you can now start to understand the distance between these measured points. So let's imagine that we're doing a small CEP room. Maybe the furthest from the scanner to the furthest point is maybe 8 feet. We can easily understand that 16-foot spacing at a 1/4 inch, it's going to be better than that. It's going to be tighter than that. So that's going to be a perfectly decent result for a small CEP room, regardless of application. You're going to get plenty of points. But if you're making a long shot, you're doing maybe a warehouse or something like that, all of a sudden those point spreads might come into play, and you need much more than that tighter number. And so that's where we come into some of these other numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So one more thing that you want to consider is the point cloud size. As density increases, size increases exponentially because we're working in 3D space. As you can see in the table below, at the low density, we're capturing 12 million points. However, at the high density, you're capturing 125 million points. So there's
10x.
Yes.
Yeah, 10x in the amount of points. And so at high density, when you're working that, you're going 10x higher. That's not something that's maybe impossible to deal with, but if you are starting to get concerned about space, or you're worried about file transfer, stuff like that, this is the file size consideration that we're talking about, is you are capturing a lot more data and a lot more points. But there is one other thing that can affect file size.
Yeah, and that is measured returns. So let's say we capture a conference room. Let's say our conference room here at our office. So we're effectively capturing all the points the scanner tries to measure. But if we're trying to capture exteriors, say outside of the office, like we're capturing any of the sky, those points aren't returned. It's just blank. So that doesn't get registered as point or as data. So in this particular case, the interior files are 18% larger than the exterior files because of the lack of returns from the open sky. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, exactly. And understanding the space that you're in, when you're in these interior envelopes where it can gather a point from everywhere it shoots, there's more data than when it just goes off into the sky. It doesn't get a return. That affects it and brings the file size down. So it's just something to keep in mind. So time and hard drive space. When we're planning and scanning, it's the two things to keep in mind. And with these parameters, you can tailor your X7 to deliver exactly what's important to you and your scope. And don't forget, smash that subscribe button to ensure that you don't miss all the latest tips, tricks, and pointers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on That's the Point.